Look at this gun. It's a flamethrower, and normally, a gun like this costs anywhere between $57 and $170. Now, usually, the people who sell these flamethrowers don't make that much money from it. But then, one person comes along and makes a single tweet. And in that tweet, he says, "This is a flamethrower, and each of these has a serial number from 1 to 20,000. Now what happens is, people start believing there are only 20,000 flamethrowers in existence. And because of that, every single one of those 20,000 flamethrowers sells out in just 4 days. And not at $57, not at $170, but at $455 each, which means this person makes around $9,077,456 in just 4 days. And you know what's crazier? Before selling them, he actually tweeted, "Don't buy this flamethrower." And still, people didn't listen. Now, some of us might say, wow, just one line sold out all those flamethrowers. But it doesn't sound that surprising anymore when I tell you that this person was Elon Musk. And of course, when we hear Elon Musk is selling something, we think, obviously, it'll sell out. He's famous. He has a massive fan following. He's one of the biggest tech entrepreneurs in the world. But here's the real thing. One huge reason why 20,000 units sold in 4 days was that one line, which created scarcity. Let's understand this with an experiment. In one experiment, researchers brought in 182 people. They divided them into 2 groups, Group A and Group B. Both groups were shown the exact same website. But there was one tiny difference. For Group A, on the website, there were these 4 words, "Only one room left," while for Group B, there was nothing like that written. What happened? The people who saw only one room left felt the deal was urgent. They felt the Zoom was more valuable. Now what happened was, Group A, they were the ones who booked the room the most. And not only did they book it, they genuinely believed that the room was far more valuable. From this experiment, and from Elon Musk's case study, it becomes very clear. Whenever something appears to be in short supply, its value increases dramatically. Let me take you back to Florence, Italy, in the 1400s. The people there were obsessed with beauty. In paintings, in music, in architecture, they believed everything in Florence deserved to be stunning. But there was a problem. A massive shared church was under construction, Santa Maria del Fiore. The walls had been built, yet for nearly 15 to 20 years, no one had been able to design its dome. The reason? The architect who had started the project had died, and now nobody knew how to build a dome. Because this was supposed to be the largest dome in the world. All the architects were afraid. Because if anyone dared to attempt the structure and the dome collapsed, it would destroy their entire reputation, maybe even their lives. And then enters a man named Filippo Brunelleschi. But he wasn't even an architect. He was just a clockmaker. And yet he said, "I can build this dome without wooden scaffolding. I have a special design. I'll place the bricks both horizontally and vertically in a unique pattern. It will be an octagon. The sides won't be equal, the center points won't even align." The people of Florence were shocked. A dome that big, without wooden support? Nobody had ever done it before. They demanded, "Show us your exact plan, show us the sketches." But Brunelleschi refused. He said, "I have a small model I can show you, that's it." And when they still doubted him, Brunelleschi challenged all the architects. "Here's an egg. If anyone can balance this egg upright on this marble table, I'll step aside. Because then you can do what I can." One by one, every architect tried, and every time the egg fell, nobody could make it stand upright. Finally, they all turned to Brunelleschi. "It's your turn." Brunelleschi gently tapped the egg on the bottom, cracked it slightly, made its base flat, and then placed it upright. It stood perfectly. All the architects protested. "That's not fair. We could have done that." And Brunelleschi replied, "Exactly. That is why I never show you my exact design. Because if I did, you would simply say, you could have done it too." With that, the Great Dome of Florence was entrusted to Brunelleschi. But even then, the officials doubted him. So they appointed another co-director, Lorenzo Ghiberti. Now, Lorenzo was Brunelleschi's rival. He was an architect, but he had no idea how to actually build the dome. Still, he craved the credit. Brunelleschi noticed this. At first, he began the work. But soon he realized Lorenzo was getting all the recognition simply because he was better educated and more articulate. Angered, Brunelleschi suddenly declared, "I'm sick. I cannot come to the site. Let Lorenzo continue the work." When this happened, panic swept through the city. Lorenzo didn't know what to do. The workers were waiting. Materials were going to waste. Florence went into chaos. And at that moment, everyone realized they had made a mistake. The officials rushed to Brunelleschi's home. They admitted, "We were wrong. Please come back. We will remove Lorenzo from this project." And, as if by miracle, Brunelleschi recovered. He returned and continued. It took him 16 years to complete the dome, and today, more than 600 years later, it still stands strong. And the most fascinating thing? Brunelleschi never left behind any detailed designs or sketches. To this day, architects only guess how exactly he managed to achieve it. And the lesson from this story is clear. When you truly know your worth but no one values you, sometimes the smartest move is to take a step back. The next quality is the power of silence. In the 1970s, the Middle East was full of tension. A massive war had just taken place between Israel and Egypt, the Yom Kippur War. The war was over, but the anger and hatred between the two nations still remained. At that time, an important American leader stepped in, Henry Kissinger, the U.S. Secretary of State. His mission was simple, but incredibly difficult, to create peace between Israel and Egypt. Henry wanted both countries to stop fighting, to agree on a ceasefire. But there was one big problem. Israel had taken control of a territory called the Sinai Peninsula during the 1967 war. Egypt wanted the land back, but Israel, still scarred from its recent war, feared that giving it up would just invite another attack. And because of this deadlock, even Henry Kissinger couldn't bring peace. So, he tried a different strategy. He told the Israeli leaders, "I want to visit Masada." Now, Masada isn't just any place. It's one of the most sacred and symbolic sites in Israel. Nearly 2,000 years ago, this was where the Jewish people made their final stand against the mighty Roman Empire. During that battle, only about 700 Jews remained inside the fortress. Thousands of Roman soldiers were closing in. The Jews knew their fate was sealed. They would all die. But rather than surrender, they chose something no one expected: a mass suicide. Every man, every woman, every child took their own lives. When the Romans finally entered the fortress, they found only bodies. The message was clear: Masada will never fall again. Even today, Masada holds deep meaning. Israeli army officers often swear their oaths of allegiance there. It symbolizes resilience, sacrifice, and the determination to never fall. So Henry Kissinger went there. He walked through the old fortress. He looked at the ancient walls. He gazed at the vast desert, and he said, "Nothing. No speeches, no arguments, just silence." But the Israeli leaders who stood with him understood everything. Without saying a word, Henry had asked them, "If you cannot make peace with Egypt, are you ready to die alone on another Masada?" His silent message struck deep. The problem didn't magically end overnight, but the Israeli leaders began to reflect. They realized this wasn't just about land, this was about the very security of their nation. A few weeks later, Israel agreed to return part of the land, and eventually, the two nations signed a peace treaty. And the lesson from this story is unshakable. Sometimes, without grand speeches, without raising your voice, without even speaking a single word, you can still deliver the most powerful message of all. The next point says, win through actions, not through words. A long time ago, there was a king who had a loyal minister. For 30 years, this minister stood by the king. Whether it was during a war when others betrayed the king or during famine, whenever the king was in crisis, the minister was always by his side, loyal and devoted. But one day, some people spread lies about the minister. They poisoned the king's ears, saying, "The minister has betrayed you." The king became furious. He ordered, "Throw him to my starving dogs. They will tear him apart." These dogs were dangerous, ferocious beasts. They killed anyone in the most brutal way. But the minister did not scream. He did not fight. He did not try to defend himself. He simply folded his hands, lowered his eyes, and said one thing to the king: "My lord, give me 10 days. Let me care for your dogs. After that, do with me whatever you wish." The king thought about it, then agreed. The minister was sent to the dogs. For the next 10 days, the minister treated the dogs with kindness. He fed them, healed their wounds, cleaned them, spoke to them. For the first time, those angry, starving dogs had known love. And then came the judgment day. The minister was brought before everyone. People whispered, "Today, the dogs will rip him to pieces." But something unexpected happened. Instead of attacking, the dogs ran to him in friendship. They wagged their tails. They licked his face. They sat beside him and embraced him with affection. The entire palace was stunned. Even the king was shocked. He shouted, "Why are the dogs not biting you?" The minister calmly replied, My king, I took care of these dogs for only 10 days, and they have not forgotten me. Yet I have served you faithfully for 30 years, and for one lie, you sentenced me to death." The entire court fell silent. The king realized his mistake. He forgave the minister, rewarded him, and drove out the liars who had tried to deceive him. This story leaves us with two morals. First, you don't always need words. Through actions, you can deliver the strongest message. And second, never trust anyone blindly. Let me share one more thought. Once, one of Napoleon's generals came to him and said, "Sir, whenever you are seen at the theater, the crowds cheer loudly. I recommend you attend more often." Do you know what Napoleon replied? He said, "Absolutely not. If I go too often, then after some time, people won't cheer. In fact, they won't even notice me. The less they see me, the more power I retain." So from this, our first lesson is clear. Don't be too available. The second lesson, the power of silence, which we learned from Henry Kissinger's story when he brought peace between Egypt and Israel with a message unspoken, yet deeply understood. And finally, the third lesson, win through actions, not words. The story of the king and his minister showed that even loyalty of 30 years can be forgotten in a moment of doubt. But through actions, the truth always comes forward. These three lessons are drawn from the book, The 48 Laws of Power. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit like and share your thoughts in the comments.